You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Listen, folks, I'm here to tell you our political system is broken. The two-party system is dead. They have become one and the same.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host. Favorite host.
This is always the killer, the one that just destroys that never Trump argument. Hillary Clinton will fill the Supreme Court with liberals. She'll also appoint federal judges with a liberal bent to them.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Don't let anybody tell you that it's corporations and businesses that create jobs.
Arrogant, sanctimonious, self-righteous, sabotaging Trump.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford. I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not. Everybody's going to be taken care of, much better than they're taken care of now. The government's going to pay for it, but we're going to save so much money on the other side.
ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said.
What realized is that the Bill Kristols of the world, the Never Trump people, they were just never serious. They never had any kind of ground game. They never had an actual candidate they could pick.
And in a surprising and disturbing move today, the Libertarian vice presidential candidate just agreed that rifles are weapons of mass destruction and people on the terror watch list should not be allowed to purchase guns. So in other words, the party of freedom is liberty for me but not for thee. Go figure.
Compromise where you can. Where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move, it is your duty to plant yourself like a tree.
All right. Thank you very much for your patience. We were a little late getting on the air. However, I am joined by America Off the Rails, Bill. Susan, why don't you introduce yourself? Because at the moment, I don't have your last name in front of me, and I don't want to mess it up. And we've got Jen from the Jen and Rick Show.
Right. I'm Susan Swift, and I'm a contributor at PolitiChicks.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. All right. And also, for everyone, I will tweet out the link in just a moment. And they can, of course, also go to the special event feed on klrnradio.com. That will also have the stream. It is literally called Special Event Feed, for anybody that's confused. Actually, it's called Special Event Stream, but close enough. I think they could figure that one out.
All right, so I've actually already started tweeting it out for you. So
you got everything tweeted out? Thank you, Rick. Yay, right. Rick.
All right, so since we have a guest, why don't we start with the guest, because we can hang out with the folks we talk to all the time as soon as we're done talking to her. So I will actually let you take lead on that for just a second while I finish making sure everybody knows where to find us. I just kind of wanted to get her overall take on the debates and anything that she thought that stood out. I was actually impressed that Hillary could stay vertical for an hour and a half, because I was kind of wondering.
So, Susan, Hillary managed to stand up for an hour and a half. What do you think? Is that an accomplishment?
I know. It reminds me of an old joke in Texas about a cheerleader who's very shapely, but she couldn't hardly stand up and chew gum at the same time. But she managed. Hillary did it. She won the hair debate. I gotta say, her hairdo was awesome looking, and Donald's little fluffy thing there that didn't look as good. So she won on hair, and she won on stamina because she stood up there and she stayed up there at the podium. I also thought it was really interesting, the optics of the whole thing. I was watching on NBC. I don't know if you guys were watching on different ones, but on NBC it was mostly always split screen, and Trump was on the left wearing a blue tie, and Hillary was on the right
wearing
a
red
pantsuit. And I thought, all of the everything is, black is white and white is black, and we are in an alternate universe. I felt like I was watching one of these old original Star Trek episodes where, you've gone into an alternate universe of antimatter and matter. It was just the weirdest thing. And she was very composed. She was very professional. I'm biased against her. I don't like her. I think she's a mistake for our country. But as far as from a performance view and from a debate viewpoint, she looked stronger. And she sounded better. She had that irritating smirk, and there were mannerisms that I didn't like about her. But overall, Trump didn't use specifics. He had generalities. He rambled. He didn't seem like he was very focused. He didn't bring his best game. It felt like to me, it's like he was a hot mess, and waiting for the second time at bat. Is Trump going to be Casey at the bat? Are we going to wait till, the third time at bat, the third debate to knock it out of the park, and that's going to be it? I was really hoping for something better. But it could be that we've been so prepped for this, and we could be being spun by the media, because the media keeps coming out saying, well, they're not going to be fair to Hillary, and they have to fact check Trump, and we have to make sure that Hillary is on the same level height-wise with her podium. We may have been played so that we're thinking that poor Hillary was going to fall apart, and that would lower our expectations for her. So, but my takeaway from this whole thing is it was kind of a boring, anticlimactic, hot mess, and I just wonder if people are going to watch. I don't know if they're political animals like us, if they're going to bother to tune in on the second or third time. And I don't think Trump really swayed many people who weren't already kind of on his wagon. I don't think he picked up very many, voters. He didn't come across as, nice and in control and with specifics. He came off looking like he was always, squabbling with her and not connecting with us.
All right.
Well, I agree with you. I think he stammered a lot too. He stumbled on his words, which isn't very good in a debate.
Well, it does happen when you start talking quickly or something, and that's all right. He did have good energy, but the energy was always directed in a defensive, not always, but a lot of the time, he was defending himself against some little picky thing that she brought up and not sticking to the bigger pictures of what he is going to do and how he is going to run his presidential campaign, etc. And he lost, so the one, if I had to say one hashtag, it'd be lost opportunities. She kept handing him things like, just all you have to do is say Benghazi, State Department, the Iran hostage $1 billion, deal that Obama just shipped, money over there to bail out our hostages. All you have to do is say some of these things, but he didn't. There were so many missed opportunities. It was like Hillary was almost lobbing softballs, and all he had to do was rear back and hit a couple of them. But he kept getting lost in the weeds, so that even for me, and I've been following this, I was starting to kind of go, this, kill me now. This is getting a little bit boring, because he wasn't taking the opportunities to take it to her record. And she came off very composed, a little smirky and arrogant. She did have that imperious look on her face, which is irritating. But it wasn't so bad that I think it would turn off a whole bunch of undecided people. And she looked like she was calm, kind of waiting for, the little boy to stop yammering a little bit. The optics of the whole thing were Hillary, it's a win, landslide win, and Trump was a hot mess, and I hope he brings his best game next time. Otherwise, he's going to be Casey at the bat.
Okay, so allow me to be the never Trump wet blanket. I think Trump won the first 45 minutes of the debate. I think she won the remainder of the debate. He did certainly mention the Iran hostage deal. In fact, he mentioned it 4 times, by my count. I actually took notes. I don't like Donald Trump. I think he's a terrible mess for this country as a president. Not that I think that she's much better, but I think that if you wanted, what you wanted out of this debate was not for it to be a bloodbath for one side or the other, but what he succeeded, I think, in doing, not necessarily bolstering his own position, but essentially saying, look, this lady's been in government for 35 years and she's talking about cleaning up messes that she created. She's talking about defeating ISIS. She friggin' created ISIS. So I think if you look at it from that lens, I think he did very well. He certainly mentioned the hostage thing. He said, look, they gave him $2 billion for hostages, So, I think there were some examples where he did really well, and I think there were some examples where he did really poorly. I think the birther question was absolutely ridiculous. I
agreed.
Yeah, I mean, if that would have come to me, I would have said, look, I'm trying to talk about creating American jobs and making America safer. You want to talk about, a birth certificate issue that she created, and I thought that was really great. A lot of the things that Trump gets hammered on, not just by me, but by more intelligent people certainly, is that he doesn't talk about specifics, like you said. There's just a lot of, word salad, and there's not a lot of specifics. But tonight, he said, look, Sidney Blumenthal, that lady whose name I can't remember, instead of just saying, hey, your campaign created the birther thing, he went out there and said, look, this is the guy, this is the lady, and they went out there and they did it. And these people worked for you, and they were your friends, and they went out there and they spread the picture of Obama in, the Muslim garb, and they spread the birth certificate thing. Yeah, I participated in it, but you created it.
I just wonder if the American people really care about Obama's birth certificate anymore. I think that's 8 years ago.
I agree, and I'm going to interrupt all of you for 1 second. I'd like to interrupt all of you for just a second. The first time you speak, can you please introduce yourself so the listeners can at least have a chance to connect the voice with the name?
I'm Bill.
And
I'm Susan.
I'm Jackson.
Okay, and who else do we have on here? Rick, can you poke
Dan.
Dan and Rick. All right.
And Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Known as JR.
Yes, J.R. Homestead. All right. Now, I want to point out one thing about paying ransom for hostages, and then I will shut up and let the rest of you get back to hashing at this, because anybody who follows the station knows I mostly do international. But I did, I believe, prove on an episode of America Off the Rails, Rick Robinson's show, that we paid a ransom for Bo Bergdahl. So if we were willing to pay a ransom then in Iran, why wouldn't we have also paid a ransom for Bo Bergdahl? And while that didn't entirely happen under Hillary's watch, I'm sorry, this administration is crazy, and I certainly don't want anyone connected with this administration back in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Iranians are eating our lunch. I mean, they had all these people that they had taken hostage, and look, this is what liberals do, what progressives do, specifically what politicians do, right? They quibble over these little nuanced kind of things, right? They go, no, it wasn't a hostage, payment because, we didn't actually have to give them the money and, so on and so forth. But, look, any reasonable person can say, look, there's a plane with 20 people waiting in Tehran to take off, and they ain't going to leave that airport until we give them $2.5 billion in cash from 12 other countries plus our own. And that's something that Trump should have brought up pretty strongly and said, look, you can quibble over this and say it wasn't a hostage payment, it may not have been, it wasn't, it definitely wasn't, whatever. It was a hostage payment. Your common sense tells you that it was, So,
Bill, the State Department admitted it was a ransom. All right. Susan, what's your take on the hostage payment, or what's the next point you wanted to bring up?
Of course, it was a ransom. And it's very, very upsetting, and it's wrong to do. But in the context of tonight, this was about a debate between two people who are auditioning for the job of president, and for Trump not to really knock that one home, he kind of mentioned it, but he didn't. I mean, I was listening, and it just didn't. He didn't ever really put it to Hillary that, the last 8 years under Obama have been devastating. He mentioned a little bit about it, but to not get to this, the whole nuclear deal with Iran, what he needed to do is come over and say, you guys just gave these Iranians zillions of dollars. They're going to be able to develop nuclear weapons with ICBM nuclear tips as they were launching at us and everywhere. Well, it's just like he's not connecting the dots on all of these things. Of course, it was a ransom payment. I wonder where they got the money for it. I mean, it's so frustrating that these things are kind of forgotten about in the context of the debate. But he must get specific. He's got to bring his best game, and maybe he should start practicing. Maybe he was just being himself like he's been throughout the debate, and he had through the debates with the GOP candidates, I should say. But I don't know if that's going to be enough, given that the media and Hillary's campaign are going to be so well prepared coming after him. I just didn't see that he was prepared with specifics, and he didn't seem to have them at his fingertips to be able to counter her and say, why is your guy Obama, and why are you as former Secretary of State, why aren't you protesting against this, that we're ransoming, that we're sending millions of dollars to somebody who has vowed to kill us, and who's mounted people to fly planes into our buildings? Why are we giving these people money?
Can I just say that I actually don't believe that he didn't prep. I just don't think that he prepped in the traditional way that any other presidential candidate has. I mean, I do think that he had a few more things on his hip that he was able to shoot than he typically did during the Republican primaries, which was just a whole lot of talking over and name calling and nonsense. And not that he didn't speak a lot of nonsense tonight, but I do think that there were some things given, some specifics mentioned that were just, in a way, kind of un-Trump-like if he's not reading off a teleprompter. So I think he kind of BS the whole thing about not prepping. I just don't think that he even knows how to prep or trusts anyone to prep him in a way that would truly be effective against a candidate like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, his debate prep partner was apparently Laura Ingraham. So I mean,
I kind of thought maybe for a minute there.
Well, I'm not making any. There's no commentary from me on that. I'm just presenting that without comment. His debate prep partners were, Roger Ailes and Laura Ingraham. So I mean, roll that one around.
Really, seriously? Are you making?
No,
funny
I'm totally
stuff?
serious. His debate prep partners were Roger Ailes and Laura Ingraham. Laura Ingraham, in fact, was the stand-in for Hillary during his prep.
Well,
where did you get that? And now, okay.
Oh, it was on Drudge.
Okay, now Jennifer, you can continue. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I did think for a second that maybe Hillary was prepped by Kasich with all of her, my father and my dad was.
His dad was a mailman,
I know. I thought, how many times is she going to say it? Is she in cahoots with Kasich here? What's going on?
Right.
Well, she couldn't mention how she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, right? Because apparently he was, dead 10 years after she was born.
Before, yeah.
Couldn't mention that anymore, I guess.
But her dad, he did the silk press and all of it, and the dyes, and he kept going.
Oh, that's nice. Nowadays, they'd ship that job over to China and some Vietnamese kid in chains
That's
to do
all
that
they
work.
I'd be interested.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think Hillary got her prep from Mom's Demand, but I'll just leave that at that.
Yeah, I actually was kind of surprised that she didn't go a little bit more full tilt gun control than she did. I mean, obviously that was after the race talk, she culminated it with, and guns, but I expected her to go farther with it than she did, so I was actually a little bit surprised.
Well, what got me was the big problem is military style weapons on the street. Well, that's really not the problem, and I'm really tired of that rhetoric. Most shootings with illegal weapons are illegal handguns. It's a very rare occasion that a long gun is used, and that is just a typical mom's demand. It's just a typical mom's demand speaking point, and I'm so tired of it. I'm just so absolutely tired and beyond it. It's ridiculous. It's false rhetoric.
The term military assault is also used.
What's that?
The term military assault weapon is also used, and that is just so ignorant that it's astonishing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the first thing out of her mouth. Military-style weapons. What's a military-style weapon? I mean, my AR-15, my AR-15 shoots just as fast as my Marlin 60 that I've had since I was 12 years old.
She does not know what she's talking about. She's using buzzwords. She's using words that kind of have been kicked around by the media for a long time that trigger people. Ooh, it's a military assault rifle. Ooh, and all of the social justice warriors and everybody at Hofstra who's in the trigger audience goes, ooh, yeah, ban the military style gun. What is a military style gun? They're all military style guns. I mean, you can use any gun in a military style. That's just an adjective. She doesn't know what she's talking about, but she's...
Look, at the end of the day, Shannon Watts and the gun control lobby want to inexplicitly abolish the Second Amendment. There's no doubt about it.
Correct. And she uses the right words, the buzzwords, to trigger everybody. And yes, that's right, guns are bad, but guns are very, very bad. They're not. They're tools. Just like a baseball bat's a tool, just like a knife is a tool.
She's protected by guns and armed security.
Well, that's it. My AR-15 is my hobby. My 12-gauge shotgun is my protection.
And Clinton is protected by armed security guards. Where's the hypocrisy in that? Why didn't Trump call her out on that?
All right.
Yeah, she's been protected by armed security guards since 1992.
Yeah.
For free.
No, not for free.
No, not for free, brother. We're paying for it.
Well, no. For free to her.
We're also paying for her, probably paying for her private doctor.
Yeah, we're
Dr.
paying.
Karnak. We're paying for a lot for her, She's our employee, guys. Well, not right now, but she was as Senator of New York and as Secretary of State. She's our employee. That's who she is. Now, Trump, he's not. We all have to remember, this woman has served at our pleasure for years, and so has her husband, Bill. She's our employee.
Yeah, that brings up an entirely different point that I felt like was such an obvious and easy counterpoint to her saying, Trump was in favor of the Iraq war. It doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter at all. He made a comment on a syndicated radio show, and he was a businessman and an entertainer and was not in elected office and in no way, shape, or form employed by the government. Her record is as a senator of the United States. Game over. It does not matter what he said to media at that time. And I don't know why it's so hard for them to make that point.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you said that, because I was thinking that exact same thing while I was watching the debate. I'm like, this guy had a TV show with celebrity hookers trying to get a job with him. If you want to get your geopolitical advice from a guy on TV, be my guest.
But I mean, he was not responsible in any way, and the fact of the matter is, she is responsible.
But even more to the point, that was so many years ago that both of them were like Back to the Future. could we please start focusing on going forward?
Now.
And that's a weakness. It's a weakness for Hillary to go back in the past, which Trump did not capitalize on. What he should have been saying, just like with the birther issue thing, oh, Hillary, there you go again, bringing up things from the last election. Your head is still in the last election. We're talking about today, and the students of today, and the young people of today, and the workers of today want to know what you're going to be doing tomorrow, not what happened 8 years ago under President Obama. I mean, we're debating about stuff in the past and quibbling about, that's just taking Hillary's bait. Because he needs to stay on message about, well, okay, you're the one that has gotten, I'm glad he brought up the 33,000 emails, you're the one that's deleted emails. You're the one that has lied about, you don't know what's going on with your emails. You're the one covering up and hiding things. I've got nothing to hide. I've got no tax records to hide. You're the one that's been doing that. Let's talk about going forward. Do we want to have a president with this level of corruption, with a history of corruption, if we're going to talk about history, but going back 8 years to an isolated report here and there, that's debate bait, B-A-I-T. It's like fish bait. She's just throwing it at him, and he keeps taking the bait and going back and quibbling over it, which it doesn't serve the American people. There were 100 million people screaming at their 50 million of them at least, screaming at their television to say, what are you going to do about this now? We've got rampant corruption in our government, because we know from the most recent WikiLeaks that Obama was using some sort of covert email name, moniker, and he was communicating with Hillary Clinton, but then he himself came out and said, oh, I never heard about the email scandal unless I heard it in the news. That's the first thing I heard about it. He's lying to us. And she's been working with him this entire time. She knows damn well that's probably why those 33,000 emails had to go away, because it would implicate and finger the president in some of this. So,
definitely.
I'm not worried about what happened 8 years ago. I'm worried about what's been uncovered recently, and that the FBI is afraid to touch, which is what is Hillary hiding.
The FBI actually found proof that he was using a what could be termed as an anonymous or a fake email to communicate back and forth with her, aka Token Berry. So just let that name sink in for.
Now, one of the things that I want to point out.
Wait, hang on. I want to bring up another missed point. Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, signed off on a deal that allows Russia to control 20% of the United States uranium. How's that for how is that for a security breach?
Well,
how does the Secretary of State sign off on
reckless?
Like that?
Well, this is where Susan's so right. Like, I mean, the name of the game tonight was missed opportunities. As horrible as he can be, and obviously we all know Hillary is terrible as well, there were so many missed opportunities. There were points to hammer home. There were easy things left wide open for him to attack, and he just failed on almost every front when it came to that, which begs the question, is it just not being prepared, or is there some underlying sinister deal in here? I mean, it's hard not to go tinfoil sometimes when it's just so obvious that there's an answer and there's a counterpoint or an attack to things that she says, and to be able to throw stuff back in her face that he just absolutely gave a pass on.
I thought his answer to NAFTA was great.
Okay, I want to.
Yes, on NAFTA he was good. On NAFTA,
his NAFTA response was amazing.
But
I mean, there were a couple, but there were so many others that weren't. It was just like, oh, why can't you just, and I think that some of that comes from that failed preparedness.
I also wonder if he was afraid to attack her because he would appear as sexist.
I don't think Trump worries about that at all.
I wish I thought that he cared about that.
That wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so when he brought up his whole law and order tough on crime, he says that, but he doesn't push the point at all. He says that, but then he doesn't bring up that, Chicago has over 3,100 shootings this year, and it's been run by Democrats since 1934. He says he brings up his talking points, but he doesn't ever say anything.
He doesn't quite go to the wall.
To push it. He doesn't push it. He doesn't
flesh out enough.
No,
you know what?
not at all.
He's like your 12-gauge shotgun, which is great. You blast away and it's birdshot all over the place. But he doesn't nail it down. It's not one shot, one kill. He doesn't nail it down. He needs to be a much better marksman and put all of the facts in there and so that you can walk it through to people who might not be following it quite as closely as we are.
All right, I'm going to mention one thing here. We are 90 seconds away from a commercial break. I hate to bring this up on air, but as we are doing this live, and I don't have another way to communicate with you all, so make your points, and then we will take a brief commercial break.
No big deal. Okay, so just to recap, I think I agree with Bill's overall assessment. I think about the first 15, 20 minutes went to Trump, and then after that, it pretty much swung to Hillary. I think he had a lot of missed opportunities. I think in a lot of ways he went Mitt Romney in the first debate, because he had all these places where he could have closed the deal, and he just seemed to choose not to. And I don't understand that, because with somebody who's been as vocal as he was, his one chance to actually use facts and get points across, and he just basically kind of phoned it in. I mean, I don't even like the guy, and I was disappointed because I was looking at this as a chance for him to possibly finally start swinging some people and maybe even sway me, because I got to tell you, I'm still never Trump. I've seen lots of people swinging away from it and saying at this point he's the only choice we've got left. Look, I don't think either one of them are right for the country, and I don't plan on voting for either one of them, but I had a hope that maybe just somewhere today he would have said something tonight that might have changed my mind, and he didn't do it for me.
All right.
No, me neither.
Whoa, time out. On that note, we are going to take our commercial break, and we will be right back after we pay these bills.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast, then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your riding into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, you are listening to the KLRN Radio Debate Roundtable. And just to remind all of our listeners, we've got Dan, Jen, Rick, Bill, Susan, and I'm Jesse. And who did I forget? Jackson, thank you so much. I knew I'd leave somebody out. I don't have a cheat sheet in front of me. All right. Now that we are all back and I have done the Mouseketeer roll call, why don't we pick back up with all of the missed opportunities and chaos that showed up on that stage. And let's see, who should lead off? Jackson, we haven't heard very much from you, so why don't you kick us off and then we'll go round robin again.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
Jackson's still there, or did we lose him?
All right, well, as Jackson seems to have disappeared, Dan, you kick us off.
Okay. Well, we were talking before we came back on the air about invited guests. And I don't know if any of those invited guests showed up, but that was kind of giving me a chuckle over the weekend. And Bill actually brought up a good point, is the whole thing over Trump inviting Jennifer Flowers. Why wouldn't he have invited somebody that Bill actually raped, like Juanita Broaddrick?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to strategize and bring somebody shocking, I don't like. I mean, look, I don't want to be too crude, but I mean, why would you basically invite some skank over a woman that he actually sexually assaulted? I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, I'll weigh in there as a woman, because she's a woman scorned. This is Susan Swift, by the way. Hillary she's had to deal with the devil with her husband forever. She knows that he's been sleeping with everything in a dress and maybe things that aren't in dresses. And it would really mess with her head to have Juanita Broaddrick, all of the rape victims, and then all of the paramours, the mistresses, all lined up. And as we were joking during the break, I would have put them all on the front row, Juanita Broaddrick and Jennifer Flowers and the whole list of women, Kathleen Willey, everybody, dress them all in blue dresses and hand them all a cigar, just to mess with Hillary's head, just to get in her head. That's what I would have done, because this is you're fighting for our country. But I was impressed that Trump used that as a media ploy to get attention for the debates, and it worked. But where was the follow-through, which is kind of frustrating. I do have one little bit of news for you. I just checked in on the Drudge report, and they've got a flash poll up there. Obviously, it is Drudge, so that might be biased against who would be checking Drudge and voting in the poll. But according to the Drudge poll, who won the first presidential debate, right now it's 81% for Trump and only 18% for Clinton. So that's it. Probably certainly not a Gallup poll, but yeah, exactly. That's the Drudge version of who won the debate. For me, I think that it was, missed opportunities. Trump had many to be specific with Hillary and stick it to her and really make the points that he's kind of been insinuating along the trail, but he didn't close the deal tonight. So I'm calling him. I'm wondering, is Casey get the bat? That's what I'm wondering. If Trump
I do think he
let it down.
Yeah, I do think he didn't close the deal. However, I do think that he got her pretty rattled a few times. He had her taking long pauses, saying and trying to kind of battle back, which, in the long run of the debate and people that aren't, like you said before, aren't as like politically engaged as we are, I think earns, kind of as a hit on her and earns him some points. I don't think that there was a stark, clear winner. I do think he performed better in a less bombastic way than what a lot of people expected.
I think Trump did.
And I do want to throw in a little disclaimer on a Drudge poll that would be a vote, refresh, and vote again poll.
Right.
Just wanted to throw that in there.
I did that. That's how I got Ted Cruz like 55 votes one time in a Drudge poll. Yeah, I did. Look, Matt Drudge is a psychopath. Okay, I don't know. Speaking as somebody who was a Democrat for 25 years, I don't know why you people allow yourselves to be led by the nose by that moron for like the last 20 years. I don't get it. I really just don't get it because he's a freak.
All right,
he's just an absolute freak. He lives in a bunker. He's a prepper. He's a nutcase. He's dating Ann Coulter.
All right, this is not a discussion about Drudge. And what I have pulled up. Okay, well, time out. I have the Real Clear Politics poll breakdown. If any of you are interested.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. And this is the latest. All right, and it says Clinton by 1.6. So for any of you that are interested, that is what according to, and they said it's still incomplete. They are working on finalizing things, but from the initial phone polls done by major companies, i.e. not vote, refresh, vote again.
Actual. Plus 6 though, don't you think that that's like
plus 1.6? It's within the margin of error of plus or minus 5. Clinton is up by 1.6%.
And see, that's that's huge for her to not be running away.
All right, now.
It absolutely is. That absolutely is.
Or the polls overall.
That was the debate, and they said they are still awaiting more results to add to the average. They have just a few early results. And that's what I found. I have Google Foo.
I think Trump made a really...
maybe regular Americans just listening and just watching her. Maybe they just said, I just can't. I mean, my husband can't watch her because her voice is just so strident. It's so irritating. Why am I not 50 points ahead? I can imitate pretty well. I can. You want me to do a Margaret Sanger with a German accent? I can do that too. But she's hard to listen to, and it may just be because she's just not friendly and warm and cuddly and nice and doesn't sound sweet. Maybe she's just alienated a lot of viewers. We'll see. But I guess maybe we just. The ones of us who are admittedly anti-Hillary, no matter what, we're never, ever, ever Hillary. We just want to see her spanked in the debate really well. Some brilliant man, and I don't know who it was, on a hat tip and whoever he is, he said, we want to beat Hillary like a baby seal, politically speaking. And we do. We want her to be beaten like a baby seal, because she's so irritating to us. So maybe Trump did deliver, but not in the way that we who are very, very anti-Hillary wanted him to do it. Maybe he did strike the right balance. Maybe he reined it in just enough that he didn't alienate anybody. We'll see.
Where I am, I can't listen to either of them. That's my problem. They both, I literally get the douche chills listening to either one of them. And I literally watched this debate wishing they could both lose. That's how I feel watching it. I mean, I know that it's going to happen. I don't want either one of them to be president. I don't think either one of them deserves to be president. I don't think either one of them garners anything that would remotely makes them presidential. I don't, I mean, if we really wanted to see, if this country really wanted to see Hillary get destroyed, it should be Rubio, Paul, or Cruz or Fiorina up there against her right now. I really don't get it.
Look, Trump made a really great point at the end of the debate, right? This lady has spent $400 million in advertising. She basically had an entire election, an entire primary process phoned in for her because it's her time. And with all this money, all this effort, all this, dare I say, conspiracy on their side, the best that this lady can do is to come 3% in the polls nationally above a guy who, I have to tell you, if he were auditioning for a job any place that I was a manager at, I'd tell him to go hit the bricks. I mean, the guy's a lunatic. And he's 3% behind her now.
All right, whoa. Jackson just got back on. Jackson, we're discussing who won the debate, and before you give your opinion, I found something on politicsusa.com that I thought was interesting. They list the winner was Hillary Clinton. She was knowledgeable about the issues, but Clinton controlled the conversation. Then the second winner was Lester Holt, and the loser was Trump.
Oof.
So, now, Jackson, why don't you get a chance to weigh in since we lost you for a while and I just managed to get you back?
Sure. So, I think this debate showed why both candidates are the most unfavorable in American electoral history. According to Washington Post, ABC News polls, 6 out of 10 Americans don't like either Clinton or Trump. And this debate underscored it. I thought at the end of the day, Clinton prevailed barely, and Trump was just all over the place. And as mentioned earlier in this broadcast, Trump had opportunities to attack Clinton front and center, and he didn't really go into the weeds, rather scratch the surface. He did attack Clinton on her emails and the Iran deal that we gave the Iranians $150 billion in cash in sanctions relief. But yeah, he did not attack her as I and millions of Americans thought he would. And furthermore, neither one is presidential, and this debate showed that. I think I wouldn't be surprised if there are calls for Gary Johnson to get on the debate stage. Let's not forget that he's polling more than Ross Perot did in 1992, and Ross Perot was able to get on that debate stage.
Actually, Ross Perot paid for the polls.
Do we know that for sure? Do you know that Perot actually paid for the polls?
Sure. I believe he did. I will do some research and let you guys hash it out for a minute, and when I find the answer, I'll get back to you.
I also heard that story.
I mean, there's just going to be so many calls for Gary to be in this, and for Governor Johnson to be in the next debate. I mean, he's centrist, and I think represents the views of millions of Americans. And you know what? In an election where both candidates are highly unpopular, what's wrong with having an experienced executive be in the debate?
In the conversation? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with Governor Johnson
exactly
in the debate, but I completely disagree that he's an alternative to them. I mean, what's Aleppo? You know, I mean, asked during the Libertarian
and Clinton
Party.
thought that in the documents stood for classified, not confidential. Come on.
Well, again, what's an Aleppo? You know, when questioned during the Libertarian Party.
Okay, but I don't think it's fair to attack him on that, considering the gaffes that Clinton and Trump had made. I mean, for example, to think that the State Department documents means classified and not confidential when you're the nation's top diplomat? Come on. Cry me a river.
Okay, time out. Whoa.
During the debate, Governor Johnson said that if a Jewish person was asked by a white supremacist to bake a cake with a swastika on it, they would be forced to do it. I mean, look at Governor Weld's answer on assault weapons. I mean, there's a...
say the same thing. I think and Trump would say the same thing based on his followers. Look, I mean, there's a lot that I disagree with Johnson, but I'd rather have him than 2 nut jobs like Clinton and Trump in the White House. I'd rather have 4 years of small government under Johnson than more big government.
But you, boys, let's play nice. At the end of the day, on Hangover Wednesday, which is the Wednesday following the Tuesday election in November.
Hey, we're not boys, by the way.
Wednesday, right? At the end of the day, we have to have somebody elected president. And at this point, it really is the hangover is which is the least bad hangover, Hillary or Trump. And Gary Johnson can't win this.
That's like asking if I'd rather be electrocuted or lethally injected. I can't stand the phrase lesser of 2 evils. It's ludicrous.
But here's the thing.
You get bad and bad.
Gary Johnson can't win it because the diehards in the Never Trump camp and the Never Hillary camp, they're going to cast their votes, and so Trump's going to have some, and Hillary is going to have some. All right, they already have a locked-in.
Based on the current math, if Trump wins New Hampshire, it's tied at 269. Just saying, and Trump has been campaigning a lot in New Hampshire recently, so don't disregard that. There's always that slight chance it could go to the House.
At the end of the day, one of these 2 front runners will be the president. So on Hangover Wednesday, what you got to realize is, oh my gosh, what did I just do? That's how most Americans are having to face and vote for or against a person. And voting for Gary Johnson or Jill, whoever the other, I actually saw about
Jill Stein.
Jill Stein.
She's
I
crazy.
saw a sticker for her out in California. Those votes are noble votes, and everyone should cast their the way that they should. But that's not going to change the outcome of whether it's going to be Hillary or whether it's going to be Trump. At the end of the day, it's either Trump or Hillary.
Can I propose something?
Well, I should have shown that anything can happen.
Okay, Jackson, let Jen speak.
We thought Trump would be
Jen's turn.
I mean, because we can go on and on about the third party stuff and all of that, but at the end of the day, we're here to talk about this debate. Right. Can we talk about section by section? We've been jumping around a lot. Can we talk a little bit of section by section about kind of what happened here tonight and what points were made by each candidate?
Jen, if you've got an organized thing, by all means, get it started. And Rick, have we lost you? You've been quiet.
I did take some notes.
I'm here.
So, I did take some notes, and I'm sure others did too, but, starting off with, at the beginning, and they were talking a bunch of financial things of which, Hillary made some points on, and Trump didn't really know what he was talking about a little. It kind of went all these crazy ways, and we ended up on, and it was a lot of the opening statement and stuff too, but then we ended up on the tax returns, and then, the kind of...
Okay, can I jump in on the tax return thing real quick?
Sure, go.
Okay, so what I don't understand and what mystifies me is Donald Trump is a casino owner. Now, Susan may know this, but probably nobody else does. It's really, really common for casino owners to get in bed or to just legitimately do business with organized crime. From carding companies to payment processors to God only knows what else. And when you operate a casino, it is really, really super normal for casinos to be audited by the Internal Revenue Service.
Okay,
they do
I
this,
absolutely agree. Because...
and they do this as a means of weeding out organized crime.
Yeah, I worked for years, though, not even that heavily, scrutinized, but for years in the service industry here in Texas, managing various venues, bars, restaurants, whatever. And it is absolutely normal. We get audited every frickin' year. Every single bar, every single restaurant, every single venue. And so I don't doubt that that's a normal thing. Oh, I always get audited. Sure you do. We always do too. And we're a family owned and run business that has 8 properties. I can't imagine owning, what he owns. So I think that's totally legit. But I think also, like has been shown, that he's under no circumstance not allowed to release this or that. And there are parts of it he could release without jeopardizing other parts. That whole thing, I'd like to hear everybody's take on, I guess.
I'm going to jump in on this real quick. Okay, if he's being outed for last year's tax returns, fine. What about the year before? I'm sure that's not still under audit.
Or 10 years ago.
Deborah,
or 5
you
years
guys,
ago.
wait. You guys, wait. We're missing the whole point. Millions of Americans have been targeted by the IRS because they were conservative. Let's remind everybody about what Obama did using the IRS and what Clinton and Obama did using the IRS to target and suppress the free speech rights of Tea Parties and conservative groups. That was a wide open door for him to walk in and say, I know what it's like to be audited. I'm being harassed by the government, just like millions of Americans are being harassed by their government. We're under threat of audit. And then we're also told that if you don't, divulge the list of names of your supporters, we're going to come after you and audit you. This is a government run but our government is out of control, and it's intimidating regular Americans who just do normal business and are trying to comply with thousands upon thousands of pages of tax returns. I get a CPA to do our little family taxes just, because I'm just so afraid that they'll come after me. I have a law degree, and I don't want the IRS coming after me because I made some sort of math mistake. That's what Trump should have done. He should have said, of course, casinos are audited. They deal in cash and a lot of crazy businesses. But the big important point is our IRS is being used as a political tool by the Democrats, by Obama and Mrs. Clinton, their administration, to target regular, hardworking Americans who wanted to use their freedom of association to form clubs and groups, and they were targeted by Lois Lerner. That's what he should have said in the debate.
Maybe so.
Well, if I can interject here, I mean, I've been a victim of it twice in the last 5 years, where the IRS has actually come after me twice now. I'm saying this twice to prove that my kids existed because I get a tax break for them. I actually had to prove that my kids existed twice in 5 years. Where they held my return and told me that I had to prove that my children existed.
That's shitty.
Well, but they were illegal immigrants, so that's why you had problems. If you just said that they were illegal immigrant children, you would have gotten free handouts.
Well,
yeah.
Here's my deal, though, about Trump, about bringing this up and saying, I can't release because I'm under audit. And then, she's saying whatever and then he says, okay, well, I can't. Every lawyer, everybody tells me not to. However, if you'll do this, then I will. So I can't, but I can, but I choose not to, but I will, so this kind of bounce around back and forth and the negotiating in a way of if you do this, I'll do that. I think for people that don't follow this all the time and aren't on top of these things, I think they go, what? Okay, well, yeah, Hillary, the emails. But in reality, you're saying, I can't do it, I shouldn't do it, it's why I haven't done it. But if I'm given this, then I will. I just thought that was, it fell a little flat for me, other than the, 33,000 emails, Hillary.
Regular Americans resent the IRS and resent having to file 45, 50-page returns. We resent the IRS. We want it simplified. They don't like the notion of having to cough up their own tax returns. I don't think that that's a big winning issue for Hillary, because most people just say, well, why should he have to bring up his tax returns? He's a businessman. Why don't you show your records? Trump is right, and he's hitting on something that a lot of people, it resonates with him. He's a private businessman. Yeah, he's running for president for the first time, but people don't care about his tax returns. We're much more interested in her emails and her scandals and, frankly, her health records because she's hiding something. Why is she always falling down? Why is she having twitching eyes that look like a chameleon lizard? Why is she having problems stringing sentences together sometimes? That's what we're more concerned about. We don't really care about his tax records. He's resonating with people. People hate the IRS.
I guess, I mean, I see that point, and I think that that's possibly true. I still think that based on the history of presidential candidates and tax records, that it's not an unreasonable request, especially by someone that continuously claims they have nothing to hide, no big deal. They say they're under audit. That's why they can't.
I have nothing to hide,
people
but
in
I
charge
can't prove
say
it to you.
that. What?
I have nothing to hide, but I can't prove it to you.
But I can't prove it to you. And the people that I claim said I can't do it say I can. So that's another, layer of kind of dishonesty.
I don't know. Have you ever seen his attorney, by the way? Have you ever seen his attorney on TV?
Have I seen him?
Yeah, his attorney,
I'm sure.
Michael something or other. I forget his last name. It's like some Italian name. He's insane. He was that guy that was on TV with, that was on CNN with like Brooke Baldwin or something. And she was like, all the polls show that you guys are like in the toilet. And he's like, which polls? And she goes, I just told you. Oh yeah, which ones? All.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That's his attorney. That's his lead counsel.
Well, this is another situation, though.
Obviously not a Mensa scholar. He does not hire the best people as he would allow us to believe.
Well, and that's proven time and time over by campaign managers, by advisors, by spokespeople, whatever else.
How about the fact that
nothing about shoplifter Katrina Pearson.
Okay, another example of Trump not hiring the best people. His own plane, one of his little plane, the smaller of his planes that he frequently uses to get to campaign events, was grounded by the FAA because they failed to renew the registration. So, in order to avoid a long delay before it could be re-registered, he sold it to another one of his companies to get it back in the air faster.
Yep, running around the red tape. And people hate red tape. It resonates with regular people who, there's just so many thousands of rules and regulations out here in California you've got to follow just to open up any kind of business. It makes people crazy. This is why the cost of medicine, one of the reasons, is going through the roof. Never mind that the government is jacking up the prices, but just the plain old paperwork and regulations it takes just to get something simple done. It frustrates Americans. So, I don't think anybody's going to blame a guy like that. I'm just glad he can, get around it.
But this entire issue was another way in which he missed an opportunity. When, he said, oh, blah, 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 when she releases deleted emails, I'll release my tax returns. He hit the email thing for a hot second, and then she said, that was a mistake. He should have said, it wasn't a mistake. It was obviously intentional, and gone after that a little bit more in that time. And he didn't. And instead, then we had not in a very hard way.
He did. That was actually a home run. He went after. He said, when you give you 33,000 emails, and he brought it up as what he said that.
No,
and
he brought it up.
Intentional.
He brought it up, but then she said mistake.
And then he said, "Oh yeah."
It kind of got glossed
no,
over.
it was intentional. I think he said that. And
if he did, I completely
body
missed
blow
it
that landed to me. That was one where
because my exact note was say it's intentional with exclamation points, and then that it just didn't go on long enough. But then also that's where then we have Holt come in and go and actually say, I'm going to admonish the audience for a minute because they agreed to blah blah blah. And I thought
he deflected it. He deflected the impact.
But also the word choice there. Admonish. I'm going to admonish the audience. That
he's just trying to be sophisticated because it's a presidential debate.
Anyways,
he's just trying to be professional. And
then it goes on to the federal income tax and him not paying it. Blah blah. And he said that makes me smart.
It didn't work.
Not good.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Didn't work.
Not good.
No.
Okay, so I think we've kind of beat that horse to death. How about the whole race issue?
right, before we get into that, we are past time for our next commercial break. So why don't we take that break, and then we will be right back with our next section, the second section of the debate.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Thank you very much for hanging in there over this second of our commercial breaks on our debate roundtable. Now, Susan Swift has unfortunately got to leave us in a few minutes, so I'm going to let her say goodbye. And as we do with every guest, when they have to leave us, unfortunately, we ask them to give out their social media contacts, their websites, and any other information they would like on how our listeners can interact with them.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Jesse, for having me. It's really been fun to talk about the debate immediately after the fact and get everybody's opinions. And it's just been a delight and an honor for me, so I want to thank you. And my website, for people who want to find out more about me, is Susan Swift, that's SWIFT, SusanSwift.net. And there you'll see links to the to Politichicks, where I regularly contribute Politichicks is .com is a conservative blog for conservative women and men. So I write regularly for Politichicks, and all other things about me you can find at susanswift.net.
All right. Rick, would you care to...
Susan, on your way out, I just want to say thanks. I know I've been letting Jess do a lot of the talking, but it has been an absolute pleasure having you here. It's been fun, and you are welcome back anytime.
Oh, well, it's a privilege, and I've had a blast, and you just keep talking about Hillary because, she's a mess. And it was just a privilege and an honor to be able to listen to all of the input that you guys have on it, too. It's really, really fun, and I feel very honored that I got to join you tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor having you as a guest, and we will look forward to having you back on another show, one of our normal shows at another time, although how normal our shows are can be highly debated as well. So
they're very fun, and I would be privileged to do it. So I'll anytime. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Susan. And on behalf of KLRN Radio, it's been a blast having you.
Good night. Have a good one.
Night, Susan.
So, can we start the next segment?
Of course. I wanted to give Susan the opportunity to give August.
No, absolutely. So I would say the next way that the debate went was the whole race topic, in which it started out where, he asked about race relations, yada, yada, yada. And Hillary initially, her initial answer was pretty good. She did well to compliment and praise cops and make sure that it wasn't a thing where it was not all cops are bad. She had to, or she's completely toast. In my opinion. But then she ended up with the gun problem, and she didn't actually say control, but we all know where she was leaning, and that's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier.
I thought her answer was a little odd. I thought the whole conversation was a bit shapen because,
Well, they were choosing words very carefully. she was particularly.
What struck me as kind of funny is that he's basically saying, look, there's 3,000 people that are dead in Chicago now. And, they're dead. They're not coming back. They're gone. They're dead.
Except they'll vote.
And what?
Except they'll vote.
Oh, well, yeah, that's implied. But, there are 3,000 people under the age of 30 in Chicago that are just dead now. And there doesn't seem to be any end to the shooting and the killing in sight. And Chicago's a gun-free zone. But yet, it has 3,000 shootings a year. It's actually if it continues, it's on pace to be the city with the most gun deaths in a single year in the history of this country. And that includes during Prohibition when people were shooting stuff out with the cops in the streets. So, he says all of this, which was pretty good. And then she's just well, he didn't say any of the good stuff that happens in Chicago,
I did think that he needs to
what
lay
good
off
stuff happens in Chicago?
Hey, don't dish Chicago style pizza. I'm just saying.
Or Chicago hot dogs, and on the gun-free zone,
not Chicago style pizza.
And on the
we would have to do with anything.
Okay, and on the gun-free zone note,
I'm a fat kid, so I'm going to start talking about food.
And on the gun-free zone note, it takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun, and declaring a gun-free zone, I have never seen a mass shooting in a gun store. That's my point, and I'll let you guys take it from there.
Okay, I wanted to say that I thought that the harping and repetition of Chicago was it's one thing to make a point and say a couple things. I felt like he lingered on it a little too long and just kept saying it over and over and over in a way that was like, okay, like move on from that, make other points about why, gun control is bad, about why gun-free zones are bad, about why there are problems with the people, not the guns, with the way in which, we have normalized violence, whatever else, instead of just Chicago, 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 which obviously is a huge problem, but it's indicative of a greater problem. So that to me was a little bit like just repetitive, and I think it falls flat with
kicking a dead horse, maybe.
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna say something that's gonna be a little uncomfortable, but when there's a police officer involved shooting in a black community, whether it's Chicago or Ferguson or anywhere or Newark, New Jersey, I experienced this firsthand as a Democrat. Whenever there's an officer involved shooting with a black person in a black community, the first thing that happens is the faith leaders come out into the street and tell people to loot and burn shit. That's the first thing that happens. It always happens. Always. It happened in Ferguson. It happened in Charlotte. It happened in Newark in the 70s. It happened in Jersey City, New Jersey in the 60s. It happened in Patterson and Camden in the 60s. It happened in L.A. during the Rodney King riots. The first thing that happens is the guys like Al Sharpton go out into the street and they tell the young black folks to go and burn stuff and loot neighborhoods. The Crown Heights riots, that's always the first thing that happens. And Trump is absolutely right on one thing: law and order. When the way that they stopped the rioting in Jersey City, the way they did it in Patterson and Passaic and Camden and Newark, New Jersey, is the first thing they did is the police went out into the streets, whether they were black, white, or Latino, they went out into the streets and they locked up the ministers because they're the guys that push this crap. They are absolutely the biggest problem. The community leaders are what caused this crap. They're the ones that agitate it. They're the ones that gin it up because that's how they make their living. And that's what needs to be said. It's a hard truth, but it's true, and it needs to happen. And it's not the police officers.
You're absolutely right, Phil.
Go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add to that. I mean, it's just, I have experienced this firsthand every time during the Amadou Diallo riots, during the Sean Bell trial, just living in New York and New Jersey, I've seen this. The ministers are the first ones that go out into the street and they tell people to burn stuff. They're the ones that are at the front of the crowd. They're the ones that are at the front of the riot. And the way that we solved it in New Jersey and Newark and Camden and Passaic and Patterson and Jersey City and Montclair and Nutley is the first time they go out into the street, you start cracking their heads and you throw them in jail, and then the riot just suddenly disappears. Because now there's nobody telling them what to do.
For the record and for our listeners, real quick, I just want to interject that we have lost Jackson, and I have been unable to get him back on the line. So for anybody listening who has missed Jackson's input, I apologize. We are having technical difficulties getting him back on the line. Okay.
Apparently, his internet connection went down, so I think before he crashed, we were actually working out. I think he's going to come on an America Off the Rails episode that will air Friday morning. So
outstanding. I just wanted to make that point because I have been trying to get him back, and I will cease and desist on that.
Well, I was going to
say... Hey, Bill, I wanted to add, I mean, being here in Charlotte, I experienced something over the weekend, and I was voicing my opinion on social media, and what I was getting from people was, hey, you need to just stop, and you need to sit back, and you need to wait until all the facts come out. And by the way, those cops are dirty. Wait, what? You just told me I need to sit back and wait for the facts to come out, and then in the next sentence you told me that the cops are dirty. I've lived here quite a while, and I'm going to tell you the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department is a top-notch police department. The cops are paid well, they're trained well, and there is rarely ever a problem you hear about out of this police department. And listening to the rhetoric, and it comes back to something that Trump missed tonight. Is you listen to this rhetoric, and the rhetoric is you need to wait for the facts to come out because these cops are dirty. If I need to wait for the facts to come out, you do. If the cop's dirty, if the facts come out and say that the shoot was bad, I'm all for it. All behind you. Yes, it was a bad shoot. Yes, that cop, not all the cops, that cop had a bad shoot. I'll admit it. It's driving me, the rhetoric is driving me crazy, is that if I look at what I see, which is rocks getting thrown through the front of the Ritz-Carlton and businesses getting looted and everything else, and I have a problem with it, I'm the one that's supposed to sit back and say, okay, I'll wait for the facts, while everybody else says that the cops are racist. Well, how are they racist if you haven't heard the facts yet?
Yeah, not the least of which the fact that the cop that shot him was black.
Exactly. And there were, I believe, 5 or 6 police officers on site, and I guess they all conspired to take a drop gun and pull the magazine out and put his fingerprints on it and put it back in and throw it down on the ground and strap an ankle holster on his ankle with everybody watching and cameras going all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that, to bring it back home to the debate, one of the things that she said was we need to have community policing. Is that a phrase that anybody's accustomed to? Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Okay. Community policing is an insane idea. It's never worked anywhere. The idea that, look, do you know why it's so difficult to get black men, black women to join a police force in a city like Ferguson or Charlotte or, Oakland or whatever? Do you know why it's so hard? Because when a black dude joins the police force, he ceases being a black dude. They see him as the white man's property now. They see him as a dude who is just now part of the problem. So why, as a black dude, would you want that job? Why would you want it? Because, when you join the police force, the community spits on you. It's not a job that a lot of people want. And I mean, I've talked to black men, black police officers who have or do work in cities like Newark or Jersey City or Camden, and they tell me, look, you couldn't pay most black dudes to do this job. Like, it's terrible. Like, the community treats you like crap. Like, like you're a turncoat.
Well, I think that is such a great point to be made, and one in which I have experienced in my own life with friends that were black and Hispanic, that there absolutely is kind of a just a, I can't even think of the word right now, but just kind of a scolding, a looking down upon, being called an Uncle Tom, saying you turn against it, like all those kinds of things for these people that do wish to maybe go in this, and sometimes not the best encouragement on their family or their community's ends to say, no, this is what we need. But at the same time, they're screaming, we need diversity, we need people representing us, but then they don't encourage people to represent them. So that is a huge issue. That is a big reason why a lot of these younger people of various races refuse to go ahead and, test for the badge. And
they won't even consider it. There are a lot
because they're going to be ousted from their own communities. They're going to be shunned. They're going to be called all sorts of names, and they're going to be ridiculed. And so why would they? It's such a risk. And there are those that take it, and I absolutely applaud them. But it makes it very hard to bring some sort of fairness, diversity, certain kind of outlook on these situations if they are not themselves within the community encouraging their young to do so.
For people who are listening who don't know, community policing is this idea that goes back to the 50s or 60s. And it's the idea that a police department should represent the community that it serves. And so they should, in theory, pick from the community, in order to fill the police department. Now, in Ferguson, a lot of the cops don't even live in Ferguson. They're from surrounding, suburbs. And almost all of them are white. And the reason is because no one, look, diversity is a weird thing, right? Like Democrats treat it like Pokemon, right? Like you gotta have them all, right? You can't, they do this in Silicon Valley a lot now. This is becoming a thing where they go, Twitter only has like 3% of their employees are black. And I go, well, okay, but where are you supposed to get black people? Where are you supposed to find, African Americans with a STEM degree that have, a degree in computer science that are also interested in, writing artificial intelligence and, API calls for Twitter. Like, where are you supposed to find these people? I mean, it's hard enough to find white men that can fill those jobs.
No, that is a very great point. It is hard enough to find even the best of what is claimed to be what is the majority or more accepted, demographic. So of course it's hard for a minority. Well,
yeah.
And also, Bill, you brought up a good point about community policing and what you brought up about Ferguson. I lived in Prince George's County, Maryland. And in Prince George's County, officers took their cars home, but they had to live within the county to take their cars home. I lived in Bowie. Bowie was fairly affluent. It was a nice town. It is a nice town. And literally 90% of the PG County Police Department lived in Bowie, and they called it Cop Town. And literally, you drove through Bowie, you couldn't drive down a street in Bowie that didn't have at least 2 or 3 houses that had PG County police cars parked in the driveway, because that was the only town they would live in. And they were 85% white, where the county was 85% black. But Bowie was 85% white. And it was that same kind of thing. I mean, it was like the people policing the areas weren't from that area, but the whole idea of giving a take-home police car to the officers was to try to push community policing, but it didn't work because they all lived in one town in a huge county. It didn't work at all. Like I said, it was Cop Town. Bowie was called Cop Town because almost the entire police force lived in the city of Bowie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're now we're like way off.
Can we get back to the debates,
please? Back on the debate. But the one thing I wanted to say is that they do the same thing in New York City. They do that with the FDNY. Like, in order to join the FDNY, you have to live in New York City. So what a lot of people do is they get like an aunt or an uncle or something that, they just claim that as their residence. So a lot of New York City firemen, they actually live in Long Island or, New Jersey.
Or Staten, even, yeah.
Anyway, back to the debate.
Well, okay, so I was going to say that I thought that there were a couple good points made by Trump, which, number one, I mean, he harped too much on Chicago, but then he did say urban areas, blah, 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 that African Americans have been decimated by crime. Well, they have been. And I thought that it was so smart, and one of those things I would have been screaming at my TV if he hadn't pointed out, but about the great relationship between the community and the police in Dallas. and that yet we still had this anti-police tragedy. And, you know, whatever the motivation, whatever the problems, I mean, it was viewed as a kind of black community versus police problem. And Dallas has been kind of one of those areas that has been used as a pillar of success on that front. So, are you there?
Sorry
Yeah,
about
I'm
that.
here.
We lost Daniel for just a moment.
Yeah,
Oh,
I dropped my phone. And it hung up.
Good job. Anyways, so I just thought that was a great point for him to make, pointing out that there was such a good relationship. They are kind of a model of the relationship that has the strides that have been made between the Black and Hispanic communities in Dallas and law enforcement have been great. There are really good relations there, and yet still we had such a traumatic event. It was a good thing to point out when talking about urban populations and the demographics of such.
Rick, you've been awful quiet. Why don't you poke your nose in here?
Actually, I was about to poke my nose in. I don't know if anybody else is keeping up with the time, but it's almost 1 a.m. Eastern time, folks.
I know what time it is.
I just didn't know how much longer we wanted
And who cares? And who cares?
Hey, let me check I've got another 91 minutes left on this feed, and then we can.
I mean,
So
my kiddo's staying with the grandparents, so I'm good to go debate however long y'all want to, but it's up to y'all.
Nice. Okay. So, I mean, overall thoughts tonight. Again, I think Trump made a couple of really valid points, but I think the biggest thing that we're going to see tomorrow is cranky Hillary again wanting to know when the numbers come out why she's not 50 points ahead again. And it just proves to me that nobody likes either one of these people. And I don't think anybody really made any headway with anybody new. I think they've shored up the people that were already going to vote for Hillary are still going to vote for Hillary. People that were already going to vote for Trump are going to probably keep their vote for Trump because he didn't do anything to hurt himself last night, but he didn't do anything to kill, well, I guess it technically is almost last night now. But he didn't do anything to kill the unfavorable ratings. He didn't do anything that stuck out. I mean, even while you guys have been talking, I've been going through and looking at all the tweets tied to the debates, and everybody's making the same jokes. I mean, they're talking about the fact that he was talking 90 miles an hour. They're talking about the fact that he was guzzling water like he was dehydrated. One guy even pointed out, he's sniffing all the time, drinking water and talking 90 miles an hour. I lived in Florida in the 80s. I recognize those signs. And I read that and I just about died laughing because anybody who remembers the 80s remembers what drug was really prevalent in the 80s. JR's like, what are you talking about right now? But that's great.
LOL.
Well, and I mean, to be honest with you, yes, he was drinking a lot of water. So did Rubio. And who pointed that out?
I was totally politically cognizant in 1989. I swear. Joking.
I'm sure you were. You were like knee deep in Sesame Street politics.
I have to say that when I was 13, I actually watched the impeachment hearings. I thought it was interesting.
Well, Bill, how old are you?
I'm a year younger than you.
Oh, like that. Nice little bit.
I was born in 84.
No, I did watch a lot of.
God, I graduated in 86.
I was 3 years old, but no, I mean, I don't think I don't like it when people try to put ages into some group where it means that they can or cannot be, astute on something. I think that that's really crappy because, obviously there are those that are going to be, what they are, and they're going to be minimal, interaction, politically intelligent, or otherwise aware. But there are many people that also are, and on both sides. I mean, whether it's for the side that you believe or whether it's the side the others believe, it's still, for me, I mean, I was engaging even when my parents weren't telling me to or telling me how they were voting or telling me what their beliefs were. I wasn't like berated with some stuff from my parents, like, oh, you believe that because your parents do. I mean, I was...
Okay, and this relates to the debates?
Okay. Well,
It kind of does.
Well, it kind of does, because, I mean, people are, like, watching this and voting, and I think that millennials and below that get written off a lot because it's like, oh, stupid this or stupid that. And I don't disagree on the front of it, but I do disagree that there's not anyone of that age group paying attention.
Okay. Rick, you got another point? Jen, you got another point?
Oh, I have a great point. How about the no-fly list, watch list bans?
Okay.
And how Trump basically said he agreed with Hillary that due process be damned.
Okay, first of all, I would like to make the point that the no-fly list and the terror watch list are two entirely separate lists. And there is no due process with either list.
Neither one. So due process done.
So I will then let the rest of you hash it out from there.
I'm just really sad that Stephen Hayes can no longer get on a plane with his gun.
Well, that's part of what lost me with the Libertarian Party this year, because the vice presidential candidate basically said the same thing. So you have the two main parties and a third party that claims they're so much different than the other two parties, all clamoring for the same thing, which is the no-fly list to become the no-buy list. And as everybody's already mentioned, there's no due process to get on the list. There's no due process to get off the list. And once you're on the list, you're pretty much stuck because it's arbitrary as to whether or not you ever get taken off. So we're talking about giving full control over who can buy a firearm to the government, because they're the ones that can put you on the list, and they're the only ones that can take you off the list. So all you've got to do is tick off the right person. Next thing you know, you can't own a firearm anymore. That is not the America that I want my children to grow up in.
No,
isn't
absolutely
it really great
not.
that Trump was endorsed by the NRA? Can I just ask anybody, show of hands, does anybody think the NRA regrets that one? No, not even a little bit.
I think the NRA was boxed into a corner with it.
I think that, he gave a little aside. He said, help people get off them, legally, we can help them, blah, blah, blah. And that was totally an aside that was laughable, and that was to try to appease the people that were saying there's no due process on it. But it was just an afterthought. It was a little throwaway comment. So this is something, for me, that is so incredibly important about who these two candidates are. When it comes down to it, neither one of them really gives a crap about the rule of law, about the Constitution, and in Trump's case, don't even care to learn it. But, and Hillary hopes that you'll not remember what it is. So it was such a bad moment. It was one of those things where I'm like, oh, you lose most of it, even whatever ground you gained, you lost so many conservatives by being like, and I agree with you, like, watch list, we should ban them, their ability to buy guns and own them. No, it was terrible. It was an awful thing. And then I think that she, bought into the systemic racism thing, and in the criminal justice system hit the whole thing about, white versus black, arrests, convictions, incarceration. She's not completely wrong on the face of it. I think she's wrong on the motivations behind it. And that was something she was trying to push. And that's not exactly what I think, is the reason for why those numbers are what they are.
Look, I mean, who here doesn't think that a convicted felon should be able to steal a gun, sit in a car and stroke it while smoking some weed? I mean, am I the only one that thinks that that's not a problem?
I'll say it's a problem.
I don't know.
Well, and to kind of put into light the electing the voting public that we're dealing with is an argument that I got into months ago over this whole subject, and somebody actually commented and said, well, you can't fly with a firearm anyway. I fly with my firearms every time I fly.
Okay.
And they told me I was full of it. But that's what we're dealing with is the public the general public that is watching these debates and looking at these issues have no understanding of what's going on at all. I mean, to say, what does it matter? Because if you're on a no-fly list and then you can't have a gun, or if you're on a terror watch list and you can't have a gun, you can't fly with a gun anyway. I fly with a gun every time I fly.
I'd like to mention to our listeners that when you quote "fly with a gun," the gun has to be as part of checked baggage. It is not a carry-on.
Correct, but people didn't believe me. I actually went on social media, and obviously I blocked out my name and my flight, but I posted my checked firearm stub, and they told me I photoshopped it. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm done with the argument. But that's the kind of people that are voting. These are the people that are voting. And these are the people that are watching these debates.
Gotta love the low information voters.
Right.
So on this watch list thing, I have a question, and this is to the people that are listening as well. Okay, so let's say for the sake of argument that your candidate of choice says that they're okay with the watch list or the no-fly list becoming the no-buy list, and because they said it, you're okay with it. So this is the same thing that I ask everybody anytime a candidate or a presidential or president, vice president, whatever, spouts off about some great new power that they're going to give themselves. Just because you're okay with it now, because your person that you agree with philosophically is the one that's wielding this power, are you still going to be just as okay with it when the other side gets a turn? Because eventually the other side will get a turn. And if the answer to that question is no, then even your side doesn't necessarily need that power.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's like such a great point. And I think it goes even a little bit further in that not only just okay with it when it's like your side versus their side versus your side, but just the implications, if you think about it in broad terms, for Americans with no sides. Like, there are plenty of people that do not necessarily identify as either or, that are affected by these proclamations people make, by the ways in which they vote, like all of these things. And, that is a representative Republican, that we have those people in office for a reason. But, you have to look at it. Like, you have to think about it. Like, is it okay no matter who it is in charge? And I think a lot of people never consider it other than just either A, what they feel right now, B, what they don't like, and C, the other side is people that are just like, I don't care. It doesn't really affect me anyways, because politics don't really affect me. Those big politicians, that president, whatever, they don't affect me. And they don't realize how much they do.
Yeah, when you decide to give, the Republicans some scary new ability, like, hey, say maybe the ability to create a, TSA or the Department of Homeland Security,
or the Patriot Act.
Yeah, when you give the government some scary new ability, it doesn't relinquish it. It keeps it, and it follows through to the next guy, and then they use it in all kinds of scary ways, and then the other side is like, oh yeah, well, I can do twice as bad with it. And then, and it never ends. And, the government doesn't surrender anything. Once you give it the ability to regulate or do something, it's not going to let it go.
Well, so on that front, talking about like when it got brought up about securing America, and, Trump obviously missed opportunities about, like, the cyber attack in institutions that are under cyber attack. And
cyber.
He should have come back with, wipe it with a cloth, 13 blackberries, missing or hammered, all of these things, and he didn't. But then you go on to him saying, like, we defend countries, they don't pay us, but they should, we're losing a fortune. But like, he could have talked about the Clinton Foundation. He could have talked about all these other things, and he didn't. He missed that. I mean, he just missed the boat entirely. And we do defend countries. Is it worth it? That's a valid conversation to be had, and it wasn't.
Yeah, now another missed opportunity.
I think that I think what's interesting is that we went from 2012, where the Cold War, the 80s called, they want their Cold War foreign policy back, to 2016. Hey, in Soviet Russia, government hack you. For some reason, the Russians were nothing to fear, and the Cold War wasn't here. But now that it's 2016, Russia's big, scary, and powerful, and now they're doing stuff. If I were Trump, I would have just turned around and said, hey, I heard a couple of years ago that the 80s wanted their foreign policy back. Too bad, so sad. Maybe you should have listened to that dopey guy.
Well, go ahead.
Because Romney called this 4 years ago.
No, but that was crazy. That was crazy at the time. And now it's totally legit. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where, it still wasn't, a bad point. It just wasn't pushed to the point that it should have been to really make it effective to the public watching this that, drove it home.
Yeah, I think that I think that the Russia thing is just, oh man. Do you want a candidate that's controlled by Russia, or do you want a candidate that's controlled by Saudi Arabia? Because that's basically this election down to a T. You have one dude who's influenced by Russia, whether he knows it or not, and you have another candidate who is absolutely influenced by the House of Saud, knows it. So, I don't know, pick the poison.
And then I thought that it was interesting to throw the racist card around in the way that she did. She could have hit him on very real racist fronts, and instead chose to use it in the birther conversation, which was kind of weird because it wasn't exactly racist to question whether or not Obama was an American citizen based on things that supposedly he said himself, and that his dad being Kenyan and all these kinds of things. It wasn't necessarily racist as much as it was legitimacy for his presidency, when there are 5 million other ways where you can hit him as being racist that have nothing to do with the birther conspiracy that, whether you believe it or not, her own people have claimed and said that they were a part of it. So it was such a weird turn for her to hit him on the birther front and then not go further and be like, but you alt-right this, and like her speech earlier, retweeted this, and you have emboldened them in this way, or you have encouraged or engaged them in this way. And she didn't go there, and I thought that was kind of odd.
Well, I think that he did when we opened this podcast up and everybody was, dumping on Trump, the first thing I said was that I thought that he did a very good job hitting her with specifics over that birther thing. Instead of just saying her candidate, her campaign created the thing, he said Sidney Blumenthal, he said McClatchy, he said the name of the campaign manager, whose name I still don't remember. And I thought that was great. I thought that was really great because look, when people watch these kinds of things on TV, people who are not necessarily in the know, who watch this kind of stuff, the first thing that they do is they pick up their phone and they go to Google and they Google it. And so what he does is he gives them little crumbs to search for. Sidney Blumenthal, McClatchy, CNN, 3 words right there, Google it, you're done. And that's a strategy that Rubio employed, perhaps not, albeit not very successfully, but it's a strategy that politicians have been getting onto in the last 2 or 3 years now. Just give people a couple of words. Don't give them a whole lot of information. Just give them enough that they can just pick their phone up and fact check it right there. Or they can find the video, like
okay, you are making a great point. It is getting rather late, and I've had a couple of people comment, aka somebody who has to be at work in the morning, say that they are running out of steam. Rick, what's your final comments on this?
Well, I mean, again, kind of the way the show opened. I mean, he held his own. He made good points. Sadly, so did she. And again, I think really at the end of the day, nobody's minds were changed. I think anybody who was already going to vote for him is still going to vote for him. Anybody who's going to vote for her is still going to vote for her. And those of us that are in the middle waiting for Rod Serling to step out and going, how the hell did we get here? Still waiting for somebody to step in and play the role of Ashton Kutcher and tell us we've all been punked and we get a do-over.
Okay, let's go around the horn. Let's see, Daniel.
Yes.
Final wrap-up comments? Because we are trying to wrap this up a bit.
I kind of follow along with what Rick just said. I think that anybody that's voting for Trump was planning on voting for Trump still is. Anybody that was planning on voting for Hillary still is, and anybody that is up in the air is still up in the air. I don't think either one of them is going to get me to vote for them. I don't think there's any way. And I know a lot of people that are in the same boat as me. I'm watching my state, North Carolina, go back and forth. It seems that one day Hillary has it, the next day Trump has it, and I have people telling me, well, you got to vote for Hillary to keep Trump down. I got people telling me you got to vote for Trump to keep Hillary down. And you know what? I just think I'm just not going to vote for either one of them. I just can't do it.
Okay, and Jennifer, you got some final comments on this so we can wrap up this podcast because we are getting a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
Do that or I got to take another commercial break, and I think we'd all just kind of rather say goodnight.
Yeah, we'll just say goodnight. I think that it went better than expected for Trump as far as being a little bit too animated, being a little bit too, crazy about things. I think people expected him to attack Hillary in a way that would be able to be, for them to be able to have talking points tomorrow about him being a misogynist or whatever else. I think that he missed a lot of opportunities. I think that she was very measured in things that she said, and I think that she didn't quite get off the point she wanted to make sometimes because she was a little bit rattled by his style. And again, I think he didn't gain a lot of people and she didn't gain a lot of people, but I do think a little bit more than what Rick and Dan said. I do think that there are some people that are very not knowledgeable, non-political in this aspect that, may have gotten a few things out of this that would sway them one way or the other, but not enough to make a huge difference. So, that's where we are.
Is there anybody I missed in this round the horn?
Bill.
Your turn, Bill.
Best boy of the debate, Donald Trump. Worst lady of the debate, Hillary Clinton. Worst boy, Sean Hannity.
All right. Interesting wrap up. I'm going to say it's been, for someone who is not a U.S. political junkie, I actually find North Korea inner workings a little more interesting. This has been an interesting experience jumping into the political fray with all of you, and I did have to do a little research in advance. Yes, I had to do show prep for a political roundtable because I don't keep up with this stuff. So it's been fun. It's been interesting. Now, around the horn one more time. Let's start with Bill, since you are one of the guests, our regular guests. Social media contacts.
At Defend Wall Street or 555 I Love You Donald.
And that at Defend Wall Street is on Twitter. Thank you. Daniel, did you get your wrap-up comments, or did we miss you somehow?
No, we got
No, you got mine.
Okay, social media contacts.
At 1911G_fan. And that's about it. My Facebook's pretty private.
Okay, Jen.
I am at Jay Homestead on Twitter. I will not apologize for what I say. And JR Homestead on Facebook and misfitpolitics.weebly.com.
Rick, that brings us to you.
AOTR_host on Twitter. You can shoot me emails, one of two options, Ricky@thesparkradionetwork.com, Rick at KLRNradio.com, or you can go find my professional Facebook page, /Rowdy Ricky Robinson. No, you're not getting my personal Facebook unless I actually know you, but you can shoot me a friend's request over there. We'll talk, we'll chat, we'll hang out. It'll be fun. And on that note, I think that's about about most of the ways you can keep up with me. So yeah, there's that.
All right. I am Jesse on Twitter. I'm at Jesse's POV. I have a Facebook page. Guess what? Jesse's POV. I have not one, but two websites, because I have not one, but two shows. I've got jessespov.com and jessescoffeeshop.com. Jesse's POV is your current events and your military slanted news, and occasionally I pull the police and fire departments into that one. Jesse's Coffee Shops is for all you book lovers, writers, and avid readers. You never know what author I'm going to interview next. And I thank Rick for the opportunity to produce this very intriguing Round the Horn debate insanity. And I think that's what we may have to title this one. The insanity.
Confirmed.
So, all right. Well, I thank all of you for joining me, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. I think we will actually be able to get this worked out for the next debate, because I would love to do this again. And thank you all. And to everyone out there listening on KLRN Radio, don't forget, most of our shows can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, Pocket Casts, Blueberry. We're getting into Google Play. And
we have a Blueberry account? I didn't know that.
Yes, we do.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
I created it.
Well, see, that's what happens when you don't tell me stuff. Yeah.
I haven't had a chance. I've been a little busy chasing technical problems. I did it like 2 days ago.
I understand.
So, we can be found Pocket Casts and many other places where podcasts are found. Thank you all for being wonderful listeners. I know we kept you forever and a day tonight, but I hope you enjoyed the banter as much as I did. And on that note, we're out of here.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.